When my brother Roland looked at my 12-year-old daughter Meadow and said her wheelchair was ruining the family photos, I thought staying silent would keep the peace. I was wrong. 10 days later, 67 photos without my disabled daughter went viral with a caption that destroyed my entire family's reputation, and I was the one who posted them. My name is Gwendolyn Brennan, though most people call me Gwen. I'm 38 years old, a single mother, and I work as a dental hygienist at a small practice in suburban Ohio. For most of my life, I've been the family peacekeeper, the one who smooths things over when tempers flare at holiday dinners or when my siblings start their petty arguments about who mom loves more. But what happened at our family reunion last summer changed everything. It taught me that keeping the peace sometimes means allowing injustice to flourish right in front of your eyes. My daughter Meadow is the light of my life. She's 12 years old with auburn hair that catches the sun like copper wire and a smile that could power a small city. Born with spina bifida, she's used a wheelchair since she was 3. But if you ask Meadow, she doesn't use a wheelchair. She pilots a purple chariot she's named Violet. She decorates it with LED lights for special occasions, covers the spokes with colorful beads she makes herself, and has stickers from every museum, zoo, and aquarium we've ever visited plastered across the back. Meadow is an artist, the real kind, not just a kid who likes to draw. Her art teacher, Mrs. Pensky, says she has a gift for capturing emotions in her sketches that most adults never master. Our refrigerator is a gallery of her work: watercolors of our neighbor's garden, charcoal drawings of her friends at school, and endless portraits of our cat Whiskers in various states of mischief. The Brennan family is what my mother Francine likes to call professionally successful. She says it the way other people might say blessed or fortunate, but with an edge that suggests it's not luck, but superiority that got us there. My brother Roland, 42, is a regional sales manager at Hutchinson Industries, one of those Fortune 500 companies that makes parts for things you use every day but never think about. He married Desiree, a former pageant queen turned pharmaceutical rep, and they have 3 children who look like they stepped out of a Gap Kids catalog. My sister Tamara, 35, is a real estate agent who specializes in what she calls aspirational properties, houses that cost more than most people make in a decade. She married her college sweetheart, Jerome, who runs a successful chain of fitness centers. Their twin boys, Atlas and Phoenix, yes, those are their real names, are 7 and already being groomed for athletic scholarships. Then there's my mother, Francine Brennan, 65, recently retired after 30 years as a principal at Lakewood Elementary. She's the kind of woman who irons her jeans and considers appearing in public without lipstick a moral failing. She serves on 4 charity boards and never misses an opportunity to mention it. My father, Douglas, passed away when I was 25, and sometimes I think he was the only one who could soften her sharp edges. The extended Brennan clan includes aunts, uncles, cousins, and their various offspring totaling 43 people when everyone's counted. We gather every 5 years for a reunion at my parents' lake house in Michigan, a sprawling property my mother inherited from her father. It's the kind of place that looks like it belongs in a lifestyle magazine. Wraparound porches, a private dock, and a lawn so perfectly manicured it looks artificial. This particular reunion was supposed to be special. Roland had invited his boss, Mr. Hutchinson, himself and his family as guests, hoping to score points for a promotion to the executive team. Tamara was documenting everything for her social media, where she promotes her real estate business to her 12,000 followers. And Francine had hired a professional photographer, someone who usually did wedding photography for what she called the better families in Detroit. As for me and Meadow, we were just happy to be included. You see, there's always been this unspoken tension about Meadow's disability in my family. They love her, or at least they say they do, but it's a complicated love, the kind that comes with qualifiers and conditions. They love her despite her wheelchair. They include her when it's convenient. They celebrate her achievements, but always with surprise, as if they can't quite believe someone in a wheelchair could win an art contest or make the honor roll. I should have seen what was coming when Tamara texted me the week before. Maybe keep Meadow's chair decorations simple this year. Roland's boss will be there. I should have known when Francine called to ask if Meadow really needed to bring her wheelchair, as if she had any other way of moving through the world. But I believed foolishly that family meant something more than appearances. The Brennan family reunion happens every 5 years at my parents' lakeside property in Michigan. It's supposed to be this grand celebration where all 43 family members gather for a weekend of bonding, barbecues, and most importantly, the official family portrait session that my mother treats like a royal coronation. I'd been preparing Meadow for weeks. She was so excited she'd marked off days on her calendar with purple hearts, counting down to what she called the big family party. We went shopping together for her outfit, and she chose a purple dress with silver threading that caught the light when she moved. The dress had a full skirt that draped beautifully over her wheelchair, and she'd spent hours with her hot glue gun, adding tiny crystals to Violet's wool covers to match. "Everyone's going to love your new purple dress," I told her. As we packed our suitcase the night before leaving, she was folding her clothes with the precision of someone preparing for the most important event of her life. My daughter has this incredible spirit that turns everything into a celebration. She calls her wheelchair Violet and treats it like a friend rather than medical equipment. For this reunion, she'd even created custom spoke guards with family photos from the last gathering, each one carefully laminated and decorated with glitter. "Mom, do you think Grandma Francine will let me be in the front row this year?" Meadow asked, her eyes bright with hope as she placed her art supplies in her travel bag. "Since I'm shorter sitting down, it makes sense, right? I could be right in the middle with the little kids, and everyone would fit perfectly behind me." She'd clearly been thinking about this, planning where she'd position herself for the photos. At the last reunion 5 years ago, she'd been 7 and smaller, easier for them to place on someone's lap and pretend the wheelchair didn't exist. But now she was 12, independent and proud of who she was. The drive to Michigan took 6 hours from our home in Ohio. Meadow spent the time creating a new sketchbook specifically for the reunion, writing Brennan Family Memories 2024 on the cover in her careful cursive. She drew pictures of what she imagined the weekend would look like. Cousins playing by the lake. Her and Grandma Francine baking cookies. Everyone laughing around the big dining table. My phone kept buzzing with texts from my sister Tamara. "Roland's bringing his boss's family as guests. Mom wants everything perfect." The word perfect was in all caps, like a warning siren. Another text came through 20 minutes later. "Maybe tone down Meadow's chair decorations. You know how Roland gets about appearances." I glanced at Meadow in the rear-view mirror, watching her add rainbow colors to a drawing of the family house, completely absorbed in her joy. I didn't reply to Tamara. Some arguments weren't worth having over text when you were trying to preserve your daughter's excitement. As we pulled up the long gravel driveway to the lake house, I saw the cars already lined up like expensive dominoes. Roland's new BMW, Tamara's white Escalade, various Audis and Mercedes belonging to cousins who'd arrived early. Our Honda Civic looked humble among them. But Meadow didn't notice. She was too busy pointing out the new garden sculptures my mother had installed. When we arrived, my mother, Francine, greeted us at the door, wearing a cream-colored pantsuit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Her smile was perfect, practiced, the kind she'd perfected over 30 years of greeting school board members and wealthy donors. But that smile faltered when she saw Meadow's decorated wheelchair, the purple wheels catching the afternoon sun, the LED lights Meadow had programmed to pulse in a gentle pattern. "Oh, Gwendolyn," she sighed. And in those 2 words I heard everything she didn't say. The disappointment, the embarrassment, the wish that things could be different, that we could be different. "I thought we discussed keeping things traditional this year." "Traditional?" I asked, helping Meadow navigate the small step into the house while managing our luggage. "You know what I mean," Francine said, lowering her voice as if Meadow couldn't hear her. "Professional, classic. The photographer Roland hired is very high-end. He does the governor's family portraits." Meadow wheeled herself into the foyer, her face glowing with happiness. "Grandma Francine, I made you something." She pulled out a small canvas from her bag, a painting of the lake house she'd worked on for weeks. "It's for your hallway gallery." My mother took the painting with the kind of careful distance someone might use to handle a spider. "How thoughtful, dear." I'll find the perfect place for it. She set it on the entrance table behind a large vase where it immediately disappeared from view. Roland appeared from the living room, his cologne announcing him before his voice did. "Gwen, you made it." His enthusiasm dimmed when he saw Meadow. "And our little artist is here too. Meadow, the kids are out by the water if you want to join them." "After she settles in," I said firmly. But I felt the weekend's warmth already starting to cool. Saturday afternoon came with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze off the lake. What my mother called portrait-perfect weather, as if she'd personally arranged it with God. The professional photographer Roland had hired was setting up equipment on the lawn, his assistants arranging reflectors and adjusting tripods with the precision of surgeons preparing for operation. 67 photos were planned according to the shot list my mother had typed up and distributed like a military briefing. The photographer, a thin man named Harrison, who wore all black despite the summer heat, walked the grounds, selecting backgrounds. "The light by the willows is magnificent," he announced. "And that gazebo will frame the generational shots beautifully." Family members started gathering on the lawn at 2 o'clock sharp. Everyone dressed in the coordinated outfit scheme Tamara had emailed weeks ago. Navy blues, creams, and subtle gold accents. Meadow looked absolutely radiant in her purple dress, which technically fit the color palette, but stood out like a wildflower in a field of wheat. As we started gathering for the first shots, Roland pulled me aside near the garden shed, far enough from others that they couldn't hear. His cologne was overwhelming, the same expensive brand he'd worn since getting his first promotion, as if success could be bottled and sprayed on. "Gwen, we need to talk about the elephant in the room," he said, gesturing toward Meadow, who was laughing with her cousins near the dock, showing them the new drawings in her sketchbook. "You mean my daughter?" My voice came out sharper than intended, but I didn't soften it. "The wheelchair, Gwen. It's going to be the only thing people notice in the photos. My boss, Mr. Hutchinson, his family is here. These photos are going on the company website for their diversity initiative. We need them to look polished, professional, aspirational." Aspirational. I repeated the word like it tasted sour. What exactly about my daughter isn't aspirational? Before Roland could respond, Tamara joined us, her heels sinking slightly into the grass with each step. She'd changed outfits 3 times since lunch, finally settling on a dress that she informed everyone was from a designer you probably haven't heard of. "Roland has a point," she said, adjusting her designer sunglasses even though we were in the shade. "Maybe Meadow could sit on a regular chair or we could position her behind the group, so she's included but not the focal point." The focal point. I felt heat rising in my chest. She's a 12-year-old girl, not a problem to be solved. The photographer called out, interrupting our conversation. "Let's start with the grandchildren, please." All the grandkids together. Meadow's face lit up like Christmas morning. She spun Violet around and rolled forward excitedly, positioning herself front and center with her cousins. Atlas and Phoenix stood on either side of her, and for a moment it looked perfect, natural, like what a family should be. That's when Francine, my own mother, walked over with a kind of purposeful stride that meant she'd made a decision. She was wearing her pearl necklace, the one she only brought out for important occasions, and her lips were pressed into that thin line that had terrified students for 3 decades. "Meadow, sweetheart," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, her principal voice echoing across the lawn. "Why don't you be our special helper today? You can watch everyone's purses and tell us if the photos look good. Harrison needs someone to hold his equipment bag." Meadow's hands stopped on her wheels. "But Grandma, I want to be in the pictures with everyone. I made my chair look extra special just for today." "The photographer says the wheelchair creates shadows." Roland interrupted the lie rolling off his tongue as smooth as his sales pitches. "It's a technical thing, Meadow. The metal reflects the light wrong and ruins the exposure. You understand. You're an artist. You know how important lighting is." My daughter's face crumbled slowly like watching a sand castle meet the tide. Her hands dropped to her lap. "Mom," she looked at me, tears forming in those green eyes that matched mine exactly. "Is that true?" Does Violet really ruin the pictures? 41 family members stood watching. Mr. Hutchinson and his wife were observing from the porch, sipping lemonade my mother had made from scratch that morning. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to fight, to protect my baby, to tell Roland and Tamara and my mother exactly what I thought of their shadows and technical problems and aspirational aesthetics. The words were right there in my throat, ready to burn bridges I'd spent years building. But I saw Roland's warning look, the one that said my job reference, the one he'd provided when I'd switched dental practices last year, could disappear. I saw Tamara's embarrassed expression, already calculating how this scene would look to the Hutchinsons. I saw my mother's stern face, the one that had ruled an elementary school with iron discipline that had never once backed down from a decision. Just for a few photos, baby. I heard myself say the words like poison in my mouth, each syllable a betrayal. Then you'll join the big group photo at the end. Why don't you sit over by that bench? You can see everything from there. That night I couldn't sleep. The lake house had 5 bedrooms, but Meadow and I were sharing the smallest one, the same room I'd stayed in as a child during family visits. The window faced the lake, and moonlight streamed across Meadow's face as she slept. She'd barely spoken during dinner, pushing her food around her plate while everyone else celebrated how perfect the photos had turned out. Roland had already uploaded previews to his phone, showing them off like trophies. "Look at this one of all the grandkids," he'd said, passing his phone around the dinner table. "Harrison really knows his craft. You can see every face clearly. Every face except Meadow's." She'd excused herself before dessert, saying she was tired. She didn't even ask if she could have her nightly drawing time by the dock, something she'd been looking forward to for weeks. At 2 o'clock in the morning, I gave up on sleep and went to the porch. The wooden boards creaked under my feet, familiar and accusing. That's when I saw Meadow's sketchbook on the wicker chair, forgotten or maybe deliberately left behind. I picked it up, expecting to see her usual cheerful drawings of the lake, the trees, maybe portraits of her cousins. Instead, I found something that shattered what was left of my heart. She'd drawn the family photos, every single grouping from memory. Her artistic talent was evident in the careful detail. Uncle Porter's crooked smile, Cousin Beth's long braids, even the way Atlas always stood with his chest puffed out like a tiny soldier. Every person was positioned perfectly, captured with love and precision. But in each drawing, she'd included herself in the corner, separated from the group by a thick black line. Under her self-portrait, she'd written in small, careful letters, "The special helper." The last drawing was the worst. It showed the big family photo, the one where everyone was supposed to be included. She'd drawn herself behind the black line, but this time she wasn't alone. She'd added other kids in wheelchairs, kids with crutches, kids with differences I couldn't identify. Under this group she'd written, "The people who ruin pictures." I sat on that porch until my hands stopped shaking. Then I went inside and grabbed my phone. Roland had already shared all 67 photos in the family WhatsApp group, accompanied by a series of self-congratulatory messages about hiring the right photographer and creating timeless memories. Tamara had reshared them to her Instagram with hashtags like #BrennanFamily, #blessed, #FamilyGoals. I downloaded every single photo to my phone. Then I opened Facebook, an app one barely used except to remember birthdays. My last post was from 6 months ago, a picture of Meadow winning her school's art contest. I had maybe 200 friends, mostly coworkers and old college classmates. I started typing, then stopped. Started again, stopped. The cursor blinked at me like an accusation. What would people think? What would this do to my family? What would my mother say when she found out? Then I looked at Meadow's drawing again. The people who ruin pictures. My daughter didn't ruin pictures. She made them better. She made everything better. Her laugh could fill a room with joy. Her art brought beauty into the world. Her determination in the face of challenges most people couldn't imagine inspired everyone at her school. But my family, these people who shared my blood and claimed to love us, they had made her feel like a blemish to be hidden. I started typing with purpose this time. These are the 67 perfect family photos taken at our reunion. Notice anyone missing? That's because my brother said my daughter's wheelchair was ruining the aesthetic. My mother made her sit aside for 4 hours holding purses. My 12-year-old daughter with spina bifida wasn't in a single photo because her wheelchair didn't fit the vision. She spent the time drawing pictures of the family she's apparently not photogenic enough to be in. How's that for family values? I attached every photo, all 67 of them. The grandkids laughing by the gazebo without Meadow. The cousins on the dock without Meadow. 3 generations of Brennan women without Meadow. The grand finale with all 41 people without Meadow. Then I started tagging Roland Brennan, Tamara Brennan Williams, Francine Brennan. Every aunt, uncle, and adult cousin who had stood there and said nothing. Everyone who had smiled for those cameras while a 12-year-old girl sat 30 feet away, ostracized from her own family. My finger hovered over the post button. Once I did this, there would be no taking it back. This wasn't keeping the peace. This was declaring war. But peace that comes at the expense of your child's dignity isn't really peace at all. Just quiet injustice. I hit post at 2:47 a.m., then turned off my phone and went back to bed. For the first time in hours, I slept peacefully, curled around my daughter like I could protect her from what was coming. In the morning, everything would change. But tonight I was done being the family peacekeeper. I was ready to be the mother my daughter deserved. By morning, my phone was completely dead from notifications. When I finally charged it and turned it on at 7 a.m., the screen exploded with alerts. 847 shares, 2,341 comments, 143 missed calls. My Facebook post had traveled far beyond my small circle of friends. Someone had screenshotted it and shared it on Twitter, where it had been retweeted thousands of times with hashtags like #ableism in families and #inclusion matters. By noon, the share count had reached 15,000. But the real explosion came when Bethany Newcomb, a disability rights advocate with 2.8 million followers, shared it on every platform with a devastating caption. "This is why we need to talk about ableism in families." Note: the brother works for Hutchinson Industries. #Hutch Industries, and the mother is retired Principal Francine Brennan of Lakewood Elementary. #accountability matters. These are the people shaping your children's futures and making corporate decisions. Do better. The first call came from Roland at 9 a.m. I was sitting with Meadow at the breakfast table trying to pretend everything was normal while she picked at her pancakes. "Take it down now." Roland's voice exploded through the phone so loud that Meadow could hear it. "Mr. Hutchinson is calling an emergency board meeting. Do you have any idea what you've done? My career is over. Take it down." "No," I said simply and hung up. Tamara called next, her voice shrill with panic. "You've destroyed everything. My real estate page has 300 one-star reviews. People are calling me a bigot. Someone posted the photos on the local community board. Jerome's gym members are canceling memberships. You need to fix this right now." "The only thing that needs fixing is how you treat my daughter," I replied and ended the call. Then came Francine, and for the first time in my life I heard my mother cry. Not gentle tears but deep, wrenching sobs. "The school board is reviewing my pension. 30 years of service, Gwendolyn. 30 years of dedication to children. And they're questioning if I discriminated against disabled students. The charity boards want my resignation. The local news is outside my house." "Did you?" I asked quietly. "Did I what?" She gasped between sobs. "Did you discriminate against disabled students, or did you just save that special treatment for your granddaughter?" The line went silent except for her ragged breathing. Then she hung up. By Tuesday, our story was on the national news. Viral post exposes family's exclusion of disabled child from reunion photos. Scrolled across the CNN ticker. Roland was placed on administrative leave pending a company investigation into whether his attitudes violated Hutchinson Industries' inclusion policies. Tamara lost 3 major property listings when clients publicly stated they couldn't trust someone with those values to handle their biggest investment. Francine was asked to resign from all 4 charity boards, including the Children's Hospital Foundation, where she'd served for 15 years. But the most unexpected call came from Mr. Hutchinson himself on Tuesday afternoon. Meadow and I were still at the lake house, though everyone else had fled Sunday morning. His voice was different from what I'd expected, older and somehow sad. "Mrs. Gwendolyn, I need you to know I'm appalled beyond words. I have a nephew with cerebral palsy. He's the light of our family. If I had known what was happening during those photos, I would have intervened immediately." Roland completely misrepresented the situation. How did he misrepresent it? I asked, though I suspected I knew. "He told me you preferred Meadow not be photographed due to her condition. He said you were sensitive about her appearance and had requested she be given something else to do. I thought it was strange, but I didn't want to pry into family matters. I should have trusted my instincts. He said I requested it." The betrayal hit fresh even after everything he did. And now I'm questioning everything else he's told me over the years. "Mrs. Gwendolyn, I'd like to pay for Meadow to have a professional photo session. Just her with any photographer you choose. And if she's willing, we'd like to feature her story and her art in our company's next diversity campaign. But genuinely this time, paid of course at our standard model rates." The documentary filmmaker who contacted me the next week was even more surprising. Maria Santos had won an Emmy for her last film about educational inequality. "We're doing a piece on ableism in families. Meadow's drawings, especially the one from that day with the black line, they tell such a powerful story. Would you both consider participating?" When I asked Meadow if she wanted to share her story with the world, she thought for a long moment, her green eyes serious. "Only if they film me in violet," she said finally. "And I want to say that wheelchairs don't ruin photos. People's attitudes do. Also, can I show my other drawings? The happy ones too, because being disabled isn't just about sad things. It's about purple wheels and LED lights and making your chair match your dress. You can show whatever you want, baby," I told her, pulling her into a hug. "Good," she said against my shoulder. "Because I want other kids to know they deserve to be in every picture." 6 months later, our story became part of a national conversation about invisible ableism in families. Meadow's drawing was featured in an art exhibition called Excluded in Plain Sight at the Michigan Contemporary Art Museum, with proceeds going to spina bifida research. The piece that drew the most attention was her sketch from that night, "The People Who Ruin Pictures," which sold for $15,000 to an anonymous buyer who requested it be donated back to the museum for permanent display. Roland's company didn't fire him, but they required him to complete 200 hours of disability sensitivity training and removed him from the management track permanently. He sent one text message 3 months after everything happened. "I hope you're happy ruining my life." I replied with just one sentence. "I hope you're learning that your career was never more important than your niece's dignity." Tamara's path to redemption was more complicated. Her real estate business took a massive hit initially, but something interesting happened. She started getting calls from families with disabled children looking for accessible homes. She knew nothing about accessibility requirements, ramps, or modified bathrooms. So she learned. She got certified in accessible home design. Last month, she sent me a photo of her newest listing with a note. "This house has a beautiful ramp to the front door." I made sure the photographer captured it perfectly. The change came after her own daughter, Penelope, refused to speak to her for 2 months. "If you could do that to Meadow," 7-year-old Penelope had said, "what would you do to me if something happened and I ended up different?" That question haunted Tamara enough to finally apologize genuinely, not for the public backlash, but for the actual harm she'd caused. Francine still hasn't spoken to me directly, though she sent Meadow a birthday card with a $1,000 check and a note for your art supplies and whatever makes you happy. It was progress, even if minimal. I heard from cousin Beth that Francine had started volunteering with a disability advocacy group, though she'd never admit it was connected to what happened. The last time I checked, that original Facebook post had been shared over 380,000 times across all platforms. But the numbers that mattered most were different. One daughter who learned her worth isn't negotiable. One mother who learned silence in the face of injustice is complicity. And 67 photos that will forever serve as evidence that perfection without inclusion isn't perfect at all. The documentary premiered last month at Sundance. They titled it The Special Helper. And it featured not just our story, but 12 other families dealing with similar exclusion. Meadow stole the show, sitting in violet with her purple wheels gleaming under the stage lights, telling the audience, "Every family has photos on their walls. Make sure every family member is in them." Last week, Meadow was invited to speak at her school's diversity assembly. She worked on her speech for days, practicing in front of me and Violet. She ended with words that made me cry. "My mom says the best photos are the ones where everyone's included, wheelchairs and all. Because family isn't about looking perfect. It's about being together. And if someone says you're ruining the picture, maybe they're the ones who need to step out of frame." Also, purple wheelchairs make every photo better. That's just science. The principal called me afterward, barely able to contain her emotion. "Your daughter just taught 600 students more about acceptance in 10 minutes than we could in a whole semester. We'd like to commission her to create a mural for our main hallway about inclusion if she's interested." I thought about those 4 hours Meadow sat alone at the reunion holding purses and jackets while her family pretended she didn't exist, drawing pictures of the family that pushed her aside. Sometimes the most powerful response to injustice isn't immediate confrontation. Sometimes it's strategic truth-telling at the right moment. My family wanted perfect photos to show the world how successful and beautiful they were. Instead, the world saw exactly who they really were, and more importantly, who they chose to exclude. Meadow's business, Too Bright to Hide, has sold over 3,000 wheelchair decoration kits in 6 months. Every order includes a small card with her drawing from that day and the words, "You belong in every picture." She donates half the profits to providing free kits to families who can't afford them. Roland's former boss, Mr. Hutchinson, personally invested $50,000 in her business and features her story in every company diversity training. Last week, a mother from Texas sent us a photo of her daughter's decorated wheelchair at her own family reunion, front and center in every shot. The message read, "Because of Meadow, my family learned to see the whole person, not just the chair." That's the legacy of those 67 photos without my daughter. Thousands of families making sure no one gets left out of the frame again. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a comment below about your own experiences with family acceptance or how we can build a more inclusive world. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that challenge us to be better. Remember, you deserve to be in every picture exactly as you.